Before we begin, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more gripping stories of justice, resilience, and transformation. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing our community grow. Now, enjoy the story. The moment every face in the strategy auditorium turned toward me, I recognized the expression, that soft, pitiful stiffness people wear when they've already decided you're finished. I stood at the front of the room, laser pointer still in my hand, my year-long project glowing across a massive digital wall. 3 years of analyzing cultural algorithms, emotional response mapping, and immersive storytelling tech, all culminating in the breakthrough that was supposed to secure Winford Dynamics a decade of global dominance. Drea, honey, I'm going to need to pause you right there, Soraya Winford announced as she stepped into the room like she owned the air itself. She didn't sound remotely apologetic. Her cream-colored pantsuit looked like it cost more than my rent, and her entrance carried the confidence of a woman who had never once been told no in her entire life. Being the chairman's daughter had a way of lubricating doors that stayed locked for the rest of us. Soraya walked directly to the center of the room, hips swaying, voice melodic and dangerous. "There's been an important change of direction," she said brightly, barely glancing at me. "My father asked me to present something groundbreaking." My throat tightened. The 6 global investors, who minutes earlier leaned in toward my work, shifted instantly, their entire attention pulled toward her like gravity. With a single swipe of her manicured hand, she minimized my presentation and replaced it with her own. Just like that. My research, my algorithms, my projections, my models vanished from the screen the same way she was erasing me from the company. She offered me a passing whisper as she moved toward the display. "We won't be needing your direction anymore," she murmured, voice low enough that only I heard it. Then louder, bright and polished for the room. "Drea's contributions were a helpful foundation, but we're pursuing a far more innovative path." Her new slides lit up with concepts I had never shared publicly, but I recognized them. They were pulled straight from the private ideation notebooks I kept locked in my desk. Ideas I had never pitched. Frameworks no one else had seen. Soraya had stolen them. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Not polite applause, thunderous, eager, hungry applause. Marshall Keene, the lead investor, actually stood. "This," he said, voice booming with approval, "is the future Winford Dynamics needs." My ears rang. My hands acted mechanically as I shut my laptop. Nobody noticed the quiet click of my key card as I placed it on the obsidian conference table. As I headed for the exit, Chairman Luther Winford met my gaze. The same man who once told me I was the missing piece of his empire now looked through me as if I had already decomposed. "Congratulations on your funding," I said, amazed that my voice didn't crack. It wasn't until I reached my car in the parking deck that the shaking started. My entire body trembled as I clutched the steering wheel, trying to absorb the violence of what had just happened. 3 years stolen. My innovation stolen. My future stolen. Worst of all, Soraya had studied my work closely enough to replicate it. I started my car, mind already racing. I had maybe 72 hours before Luther realized what I'd taken with me on my way out. And I hadn't taken data. I hadn't taken files. What I'd taken was far more powerful. The missing sequence, the one component none of them could replicate even if they tried for years. Before pulling out of the lot, my phone buzzed with a notification. A subscriber alert from my personal channel. I let out a humorless laugh. If only they knew what was coming. The revenge brewing was worth every second of patience. "My name is Drea Hollis," I finally whispered to myself. And they're about to learn exactly who they tried to erase. My apartment greeted me with its familiar quiet, a quiet that had always comforted me, until today. I dropped my keys on the counter and stood motionless, letting the silence swallow the leftover humiliation. A soft brush against my leg reminded me I wasn't completely alone. My cat, Orbit, purred as though trying to anchor me to the ground. I lifted him into my arms, pressing my forehead to his fur. The steadiness of his presence nearly cracked me open. Soraya hadn't just humiliated me. She had amputated 3 years of my life. She had taken the blueprints of a future I'd been building since childhood. As orbits settled in my lap, I powered up my laptop. There was no time to mourn, not yet. Winford Dynamics would soon realize what had slipped through their fingers. The missing sequence. The argument logic. The stabilizer algorithm that made the entire immersive tech framework viable. Without it, her shiny innovation was nothing but an empty performance. Before I could begin sorting my files, a message popped up on my phone. Zanaya, girl. What happened today? Everybody at the office is whispering, and the interns look like they saw a ghost. My chest tightened. How was I supposed to explain that the work I bled for had been paraded across the screen without my name even mentioned? I set the phone down. Before I could type a response, another message appeared, this time from Chairman Winford himself. Winford, we need to discuss this. Immediately. I turned the phone off. He would not dictate the timing anymore. I worked through the night, building a secure staging environment on my private system. Every document, every version, every shred of evidence was organized in layers that no one could deny. By dawn, I was exhausted but resolute. I dressed in my sharpest charcoal outfit, a symbol of quiet war, and drove toward the research district. As I approached the gates, the guard squinted at me. Drea, thought you resigned yesterday? He asked. Funny, I said with a smile that held knives. They'll be announcing that soon enough. Inside the building, whispers slithered through hallways. People avoided my eyes. The guilt of those who watched someone get wronged and said nothing. I headed to my workstation to collect my things. Before I could zip my bag, Zanaya appeared at my side, eyes wide with worry. What did you do? She whispered. Chairman Winford has been storming around since last night. He's looking for you. I didn't do anything he didn't earn, I said calmly. This isn't like you, Drea.
Talk to me.
I didn't get the chance. A deep voice thundered across the entire lab. Drea Hollis. My office.
Now.
The room froze. The walk to his office felt like the slow march of a soldier through enemy territory. Luther Winford stood in the doorway, aging features lined with stress. His designer suit couldn't hide the cracks forming beneath the surface. He slammed the door behind me. Where is it? He demanded. I tilted my head, letting confusion wash across my expression. Where is what? Don't play smart with me. We can't access the emotional mapping core. The sequence is gone. Investors arrive in less than an hour. I let the silence stretch, letting him feel the weight of his own unraveling. According to your daughter, I said evenly, my work is no longer part of your direction. The vein in his temple pulsed. Soraya's model relies on your sequence. And now it's missing. I let out a soft laugh. Then perhaps she should demonstrate her expertise. Before he could respond, Soraya burst into the room, panic etched across her face. Dad, the dev team can't produce consistent outputs. The models are collapsing. The interface won't sync. She stopped when she saw me. What is she doing here? Her voice cracked. I slipped my bag onto my shoulder, collecting my belongings. Since you made it clear I was unnecessary. You did something, she snapped, pointing a trembling finger at me. We can't make the system run. That's unfortunate, I answered. Have you tried using the strategy you presented yesterday? The one that apparently made my work obsolete. Her face drained of color. You knew I was building from your... No, I interrupted. You claimed you developed an alternative. Words matter. Her father stepped forward, desperation leaking through his authority. Drea, fix this. You'll be compensated. Promoted. Whatever you want. My smile sharpened. You can't offer me anything I want. You owe this company. I owe you nothing. His jaw clenched. Then he made the mistake of moving to block my path. Sit down, he ordered, voice trembling. You're not leaving until you put the system back online. I stared him down. If you put your hands on me, you'll be facing a different kind of meeting today. He froze. Soraya swallowed hard. You're ruining everything. No, I said quietly. Everything was ruined the moment you decided my work belonged to you. I walked out without another word. The lab went silent as I passed. Eyes followed me, some fearful, some shocked, some silently cheering. Outside, the morning air cut through my lungs like fresh water. The sun was too bright, too honest for the lies inside that building. I got into my car and waited. 5 minutes later, the investors arrived in expensive sedans that gleamed under the rising sun. They had no idea they were walking into a digital graveyard. 10 minutes later, my phone rang from an unknown number. I let it ring out. When it rang again, I answered. "This is Drea." "This is Marshall Keene," the lead investor said, voice clipped. "We need to meet. Immediately." I watched the Winford building towering above the parking structure. "I'm nearby. Meet me at the cafe across the street," he said. 5 minutes. He hung up. I smiled. Right on cue. Marshall Keene was already seated when I stepped inside the quiet corner cafe. He looked nothing like the immaculate investor who'd applauded Soraya's stolen performance the day before. His tie was crooked. His eyes were shadowed. His composure fractured. He motioned for me to sit. I didn't rush. I ordered a coffee first, deliberately slow, deliberately calm. Control is a silent language, one I had learned to speak fluently. The moment I slid into the booth across from him, Marshall leaned forward. "What happened this morning?" he demanded. I raised an eyebrow. "You'll have to be more specific. Don't toy with me, Drea." His voice dropped an octave. "Soraya presented a scalable emotional mapping engine yesterday. Today, the entire system collapses before we even plug it in." "That sounds inconvenient," I replied. "Inconvenient." Marshall almost laughed. 6 investors were ready to commit $90 million. And now we're wondering if the entire thing was smoke and mirrors. Was it? He stared at me. "You tell me." I sipped my coffee. "I don't work for Winford Dynamics anymore. I'm not obligated to explain anything." He exhaled sharply. "Your salary there was what? 100 and some change? We can triple it. Stock options. Full authority over the innovation division." I placed the cup down gently. "You're negotiating with the wrong company." His eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, leaning back, "that my work was never Winford's. It was mine. Always." "Are you implying the intellectual property belongs to you?" he asked. "I'm stating it." He studied my expression. "And the missing component, this sequencing logic Luther keeps ranting about. You still have it." "Have what?" I asked innocently. "According to yesterday's meeting, my ideas weren't needed." Marshall didn't blink. "You outplayed them." I didn't deny it. "So, what do you want, Drea?" His voice was softer now, less investor, and more strategist. "I want you," I said, "to invest in the real innovation, not the performance you were fed yesterday."
His jaw tightened.
"And where exactly would that innovation be housed?" "If you're not working for Winford, then..." "I founded my own studio 3 weeks ago," I said. Aurora Flux Labs. Dedicated to Afrofuturist emotional interaction tech. Built from the ground up to push culture into the next century. He frowned. "You've had a separate company for weeks?" "Yes." "Before Soraya's presentation?" "I don't build without protecting myself first." Silence stretched between us. Finally he said, "We'll need to see the real process. Independently. With our own analysts." I handed him a plain white business card with a single number. "Call this at 4 p.m. if you want a demonstration." I stood to leave. Marshall reached out, stopping himself just before touching my arm. "Drea." I waited. Winford Dynamics is collapsing internally. Luther is firing staff. Soraya is in tears. The entire building is spiraling. I nodded slowly. "I know." He swallowed. "Did you orchestrate this?" "No," I said softly. "I simply stopped holding up the pieces for them." The downtown high-rise belonged to the investor collective. The conference room was minimal, expensive, and cold. 6 investors waited as I entered, each one looking like they'd been dragged through a storm. "Before we begin," I said, setting up my equipment, "I want to clarify something." They watched me like jurors. "What you're about to see," I said calmly, "was developed completely outside Winford Dynamics. Off hours. Off-site. Off-system. using my own resources. Marshall spoke first. Show us. What followed was 20 minutes of revelation. The true emotional mapping sequence. The culturally adaptive response framework. The precision stability algorithm that Soraya thought she understood. The live demonstration, they could test themselves. When I finished, the room was silent for nearly 10 seconds. It was Amari Grant, the only woman on the board, who spoke first. This is extraordinary, she said slowly, but it raises serious questions. About what Winford Dynamics claimed? I asked. About everything they presented yesterday. I didn't look away. I can answer all of your questions. But first, are you interested in supporting the actual innovation? Or the imitation? The investors exchanged quiet glances. Marshall cleared his throat. Do you have documentation proving this is your independent work? I slid a black folder across the table.
Signed.
Dated. Time-stamped. Verified by third-party legal counsel. He flipped it open. His face shifted. You prepared for this months ago, he whispered. I prepared for survival. I corrected. Another investor leaned forward. Then what exactly happened this morning at Winford Dynamics? Why couldn't their team replicate anything? I held his gaze. Because they never understood the architecture. They saw the destination but not the path. Marshall whistled under his breath. Devastating. Yes, I nodded. For them. The energy in the room changed. Buzzing, electric, decisive. Finally, Marshall spoke with weight. We want in, but we need a private discussion. I began gathering my materials. Amari lifted a hand.
No. You stay.
I'm not finished. I paused. The intellectual property clauses in your Winford contract, she said. Won't they try to claim ownership? They already did. And a judge rejected it this morning. Marshall's eyebrows shot up. You already had a ruling? I told you, I said softly. I prepare. They stared as if seeing me for the first time. A quiet investor, Mr. Devlin, leaned forward. Drea, what are you proposing? An investment partnership with my new studio, I said. A clean slate. No nepotism. No theft. No glass ceilings. Just innovation and impact. And your team? Amari asked. Currently 4 scientists, all black, all brilliant, all previously undervalued at Winford. They left because of leadership issues. Marshall closed the folder with a soft thud. You've been planning your independence for a long time. I've been building my freedom, I corrected. When the investors stepped into a private room, Marshall approached me quietly. Luther has called me 7 times today, he said. He claims you stole the tech. That's projection, I replied. You knew all of this would happen. I knew the type of people I was dealing with. The rest was pattern recognition. As I left the building, my phone vibrated again. A message from Zanaya. Everything is collapsing. Half the department quit. Soraya locked herself in the bathroom. What did you do? I didn't respond. Some explanations require face-to-face conversations. By the time I reached my car, another message came in. Winford, this isn't finished. You made a dangerous enemy. I stared at the message. I didn't feel fear. Just clarity. Luther Winford wasn't dangerous. He was predictable. And predictable people are easy to beat. The restaurant was dim, quiet, and tucked away on the edge of New Harbor's Arts District, the kind of place where nobody from Winford Dynamics would dare show their face. Zanaya was already pacing when I walked in, her curls bouncing wildly with every frantic step. Drea, she hissed the second she saw me, I have never seen anything like what happened today. She almost knocked over a chair trying to sit down. Start from the beginning, I said gently. She inhaled sharply. Winford lost it. How bad? Bad enough that HR walked out. The man threw a chair, an actual chair, through his glass office wall. I blinked. Everyone okay? Physically? Yes. Professionally? The place is a graveyard. People are scrambling to leave before the building metaphorically burns down. She rubbed her face. And Soraya? She's been crying for hours. Apparently her father said she embarrassed the entire family. A wave of unexpected stillness washed through me. Not sympathy, just a clean, measured understanding of consequences. And the investors? I asked.
Gone.
All of them. They stormed out after the system failed the third time. Soraya tried to blame the dev team. The dev team blamed the equipment. Equipment engineers blamed the updates. It was a mess. I sipped water. You did something, she whispered, leaning forward as if afraid the walls might be listening. I know you did. I met her gaze. I protected my work.
How?
By never giving Winford the actual key. Her eyes widened. You're starting your own lab, aren't you? I already started it. When? 3 weeks ago. Zanaya stared, jaw hanging open before a slow smile spread across her face. You really did it, she shook her head in disbelief. Is there room for another black woman scientist who's sick of being overlooked? I placed my hand over hers. I thought you'd never ask. The next morning, my lawyer called before sunrise. Winford filed an emergency injunction against you overnight, she said. He's claiming you stole proprietary research. And a judge denied it. He had no evidence. Your documentation won the day. Will he try again? Oh, absolutely. But we're ready. After hanging up, I opened my curtains to the gold morning light spilling over New Harbor. The city felt different now, alive in a way it never had when I worked under someone else's ceiling. My email was a wildfire. Industry blogs reporting a 22% drop in Winford Dynamics stock. Board members calling emergency sessions. Tech analysts speculating about mass resignations. Rumors spreading that Winford might step down. And then a shocker. Soraya Winford quietly removed from her executive role. The schadenfreude was there, sharp but hollow. Not because I pitted her, but because I expected victory to feel louder inside me. It didn't. It just felt clean, like a room that finally aired out. I got back to my workbench and continued refining the next sequence in my emotional engine architecture. The rhythm of creation steadied me more than any revenge ever could. That's when the security camera on my lab door pinged. Someone stood outside. I checked the monitor and froze.
Soraya.
Not the polished princess of Winford Dynamics. This version was shaken. Her edges were frayed. Her clothes wrinkled. Her confidence gone. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the door. She stepped inside slowly, eyes flicking across the modest setup, hand-built servers, rented equipment, second-hand work tables. This is it, she whispered. This little place is what destroyed us. I closed the door.
You destroyed yourselves.
I just stopped you from dragging me down with you. She collapsed into the nearest chair without waiting for permission. My father won't speak to me, she said quietly. The board removed me today. Her lips trembled, not performative, but stunned, raw. Everything is gone. You didn't lose everything, I said. You lost what wasn't yours to begin with. She swallowed hard. I didn't steal your work. I gave her a look that melted straight through the lie. Okay, she whispered. I adapted it. Science isn't about adapting someone else's brilliance, I said. It's about understanding the blueprint beneath it. My father told me you overreacted, she murmured. And you believed him?
She didn't answer.
Instead, she whispered. How did you know all of this would happen? I leaned against the counter. Because while you were studying my notebooks, I was studying you. Her face flinched. She stood abruptly, grabbing her purse. I didn't come here for sympathy, she snapped.
Good, I said.
I don't give any. She paused at the door, turning back. You planned this from the beginning. No, I corrected. I planned a lifeboat. You and your father sank your own ship. She left without another word. The silence that followed was thick and perfectly still. 48 hours after Soraya hijacked my presentation. Winford Dynamics was in freefall. Investors were negotiating with me instead. My lab had doubled in workspace size. 3 new scientists had joined. And my real work, the work that would change tech forever, was just beginning. Revenge didn't feel like fire. It felt like clarity. My phone vibrated. Marshall. The investment board just finalized their decision, he said. We're offering $70 million in initial funding, scaling to $150 with performance milestones. I closed my eyes briefly. And, he added, the Winford board has removed Luther as CEO. They're asking if you want the position. A soft laugh escaped me.
No.
I'm building something far more powerful. I figured, he said, but they insisted I ask. We ended the call. I walked through my expanded lab, touching cold metal, fresh equipment, blank whiteboards waiting to be filled with new ideas. The space hummed with possibility. This wasn't just freedom. It was arrival. A courier arrived an hour later with a small package. No return label. Inside, my original research notebook. The one that had disappeared months ago. A single handwritten note lay on top. You won. Was it worth it? LW. I closed the notebook gently. I didn't answer him. I didn't have to. I arrived early to the new Aurora Flux Labs headquarters, a renovated warehouse in New Harbor's Innovation Corridor. The exterior still looked industrial and unassuming, but inside was a heartbeat I had built from the ground up. Lights glowed softly. Servers hummed like a quiet promise. Whiteboards exploded with fresh equations and color-coded pathways. This wasn't a company.
It was an ecosystem.
Zanaya and two other scientists, Jory and Lysandra, were already unpacking equipment, their energy electric, their expressions bright with purpose. They looked up when I entered, not with fear, not with pretended respect because of hierarchy, but with genuine belief. The one currency Winford Dynamics never valued. Morning, boss, Jory called out, smiling wide. I paused, just for a second, because no one had ever said that to me with joy in their voice. You ready? I asked them. Zanaya stepped forward, holding a tablet glowing with prototype data. We're beyond ready, she said. This tech, it's bigger than anything Winford ever understood. She wasn't wrong. Aurora Flux wasn't just an upgrade. It was a revolution. Our emotional mapping engine didn't merely interpret human feeling. It could translate cultural nuance into adaptive responses. It understood rhythm, dialect, storytelling cadence, tonal shifts, and generational memory embedded in voice and movement. It was the first emotional interface built from a Black futurist lens, designed for communities often ignored in mainstream tech. No more being told we need to fit the model. We built a new model. I walked toward the center of the lab and placed my hands on the workstation. Our nucleus. Panels lit up beneath my fingertips, revealing the UI I designed during lonely nights and stolen weekends. Today, I said softly, we start phase 2. The team gathered around me. Our work wasn't polished yet. It wasn't perfect. We weren't fully funded yet. But we were free. And freedom, combined with brilliance, was combustible. News poured across industry blogs like a slow-motion implosion. Winford Dynamics down 37% in 3 days. 3 executives resign. Core technology under investigation. Investors withdraw remaining commitments. Potential acquisition rumors swirl. In every headline, one thread was consistent. Key technologist Drea Hollis departs company days before collapse. Winford's innovation may have relied entirely on Hollis's architecture. Independent labs seek partnerships with Hollis's new studio. The truth was there, visible and undeniable. Not because I fought for recognition, but because my absence exposed all their lies. 3 days later, as we finalized the architecture for our next interactive module, my intercom buzzed. Someone's at the door, Lysandra said.
She says she knows you.
Before I asked who, the security camera popped up automatically.
Soraya.
Again. But this time, she wasn't angry. She wasn't crying. She wasn't entitled. She looked human. Worn, humbled, exhausted. I met her outside. She stood with her hands clasped tightly, knuckles pale. I came to apologize, she said. Her voice cracked. I said nothing. She exhaled shakily. I didn't understand what I was taking from you. I thought if I could just show my father I could innovate, he'd finally see me as something other than decoration. I wasn't trying to erase you. You just didn't think I mattered, I replied. Her eyes welled, but she blinked hard to hold back tears. I've lost everything, Drea. No, I corrected softly. You lost the illusion that everything would be handed to you. She nodded slowly. We stood there in the cool morning air, the city humming quietly around us. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she whispered. I just needed to understand how I failed so catastrophically. You failed, I said gently, because you tried to shortcut your way to brilliance. But brilliance isn't a performance. It's a practice. She swallowed hard, nodded once, and turned away without another word. And for the first time, I believed she finally understood. That afternoon, I received the call. Marshall's name lit up my screen. The board met again, he said. We've officially voted. I waited. We're offering $70 million up front, with an expansion option to $120 as your first prototypes hit market benchmarks. I closed my eyes, letting the weight of the moment settle. This wasn't a gift. It wasn't charity. It wasn't luck. It was validation earned through grit, vision, and refusal to be erased. And one more thing, he added. The investors want Aurora Flux Labs to spearhead a new cross-continental storytelling interface initiative. They believe you're the future. They're right, I said simply. He laughed. I knew you'd say that. A week later, as my team and I celebrated the largest moment of our lives with cheap takeout and loud music, a courier arrived with a small package. Inside was a silver keycard. The note read, Executive Access, Winford Dynamics CEO position, offered to Drea Hollis. I laughed. A deep, unrestrained laugh that filled the whole lab. They wanted me to fix the empire that tried to bury me. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I placed the keycard in a box labeled discard. The future wasn't behind me. It was right here, alive, growing, vibrating with innovation only I could have built. Weeks later, the world watched the live stream as I stood at a sleek podium in the new Aurora Flux Auditorium. Cameras flashed. Journalists leaned forward. Tech leaders whispered among themselves. I began. When your work is stolen, people expect you to crumble. When you're overlooked, they expect you to shrink. But I learned something important. I paused, letting my team step forward behind me. Power isn't in being validated. Power is in building your own table when someone tries to pull up your seat. The crowd erupted in applause. And today, we're unveiling technology that will change how humans connect, create, and collaborate across the world. No more exclusion. No more erasure. No more gatekeeping. I looked into the camera. For anyone who has ever been underestimated, you don't need permission. Build anyway. The applause became thunder. And in that moment, surrounded by my team, my vision, and the future I carved with my own hands, I knew the answer to Winford's question. Was it worth it? Every second. And that brings us to the end of the story. A reminder that sometimes the people who underestimate you are the very ones who fear your potential the most. Drea wasn't just fighting for recognition, she was fighting for ownership, for truth, for identity, and for the right to build something that couldn't be stolen again. This story isn't about revenge through destruction. It's about revenge through elevation. It's about rising so high that the people who tried to overshadow you have no choice but to watch you shine from the shadows. Because the greatest victory isn't proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right. If this story inspired you, empowered you, or reminded you of your own strength, hit that like button, subscribe for more powerful stories of justice, courage, and reinvention. Share this video with someone who needs motivation today. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had someone take credit for your work? How did you bounce back? Your stories matter. Your voice matters. And just like Drea, you're capable of building something bigger than anything they ever imagined. Stay strong. Stay visionary. And I'll see you in the next story.